Hello, everybody, and welcome back to day number 12 of Raging Reveals, where every day we'll be going through all of the announcements for Leagues 5 as we count up to the launch date on November 27th. Yesterday, we saw 3 new utility relics that will help you with Herb Lore, Agility, or Thieving, and that's already shaping up to be one of the toughest choices right now. Luckily, today's announcements are the Relic passes for every single tier. And just like the quality of life upgrades, this will actually affect your planning more than you might think, as well as a couple of inferences that we can make from today's reveal. Starting with tier 1, of course, League's XP multiplier is going to start off at 5 times, and all items from eligible sources will be 2 times as common. Keep in mind that this is not every single item in the entire game, it's pretty much all major uniques that you might be going for. Now this next one's pretty big. Farming ticks will occur every minute instead of every 5 minutes. I'm really happy to see this, as this is just a massive benefit for everybody. If you're going with the farming relic Overgrown, this is going to give you a little bit more value of that, and you're going to kind of cycle through your seeds a little bit faster while you're building this massive stash. And especially if your region combination doesn't have a lot of patches, maybe you only have like one herb patch, Overgrown will help you kind of cycle through all of your herb seeds so much more faster, and you'll still get a lot of that value without needing too many patches. On the flip side, even if you don't take it, now farming runs are a little bit easier to do. You're not going to have to wait as long, and you can actually put a little bit more attention to doing your farming more often and get like several fruit tree runs done per day. So you're not going to be completely falling behind and really suffering on upkeeping your farming. Minigame points will be boosted by 4 times. We saw this last year. I'm very glad it's coming back. Of course, nobody's surprised to see Unlimited Run coming back. I don't think that's ever going to change. However, we are seeing that all clue scrolls will drop as stackable scroll boxes, and your clue step progress will be saved between clues. Just like with the farming change, I think stackable clues are just good for everybody. While it doesn't say it here, I'm pretty confident that clues will be restricted to just your region, so you're not going to run into an issue where you get something that's impossible for you to actually get done. And while we don't know if there's a clue relic coming to Leagues this year, we've already seen the clue compass that will automatically teleport you to your current clue step. And being able to use that relic with a massive stack of clue scroll boxes is just going to let you blaze through your clue scrolls. You might not even need a clue scroll relic. That's kind of what I'm thinking of right now, is I might not even go for a clue scroll relic if there is one, just because I'll be able to go through these so damn fast. Now in tier 2, your XP multiplier will be increased from 5 times to 8 times. Tier 2 is usually unlocked within the first hour of Leagues, and this means that in that first hour, you should probably focus on completing the one-off kind of like fetch quest style tasks that just have you going and completing very simple tasks, and then save some of that grinding for tier 2 once you have 8 times multiplier. Same thing with very early game quests. You might want to hold off turning those in until tier 2 so that they can benefit from the higher experience multiplier, or if you're doing the natural history museum and the quiz over there, wait till tier 2, get that extra benefit. Now in tier 3, there is a new passive. Combat experience, including hit points and prayer, will have a 2 times multiplier, which is multiplicative with other modifiers. In combination with the combat masteries that allow you to specialize in more than one style this year, I feel like the double combat experience is really going to help you train up all of your combat skills, even the ones that don't have a lot of points into them, as well as helping you really get a lead with your early game combat style that you're devoting early points into, because you're not going to get that immediate power spike that you did last year with the tier 4 combat relics. So that double experience is going to help you kind of break out of the early game a little bit faster. I would probably hold off on doing much combat until you get tier 3. It's not going to take you very long, probably no more than 2 hours. And again, that's going to be doubled with all of your experience multipliers. So even at tier 3, you're getting 16 times the combat experience, which is absolutely absurd. Any quest that gives you early combat experience is going to be absolutely cracked with this. You're going to absolutely fly through those early game levels and just be so strong after just a few quests. Okay, so I just ran some numbers. Completing a waterfall quest and fight arena at tier 3 with 16 times combat experience will actually give you level 64 attack and 57 strength. Yeah, Kandarin stock's up immensely right now, especially since one of the combat mastery tasks is to get 100 combat, which is a lot easier to get with melee and strength than it is with range and magic, just because of how combat level is actually calculated. An early melee game build is going to get unbelievable power, I think, from Kandarin, on top of getting piety. I don't want to say it right now, but I'm very close to putting Kandarin in my build. Also, you might be thinking what this means for Soul Wars and Pest Control, which have been the two best ways of getting experience for combat styles. Those two minigames will no longer give you experience in Leagues 5. It's been confirmed in the frequently asked questions section, and that means you won't actually need to go to those to get your combat styles up. It's a pretty big hit to Asgarnia now that, the max cape has been moved out of Asgarnia, as well as Pest Control no longer is one of the best methods of getting experience in the game. I think that 2x multiplier to Prayer is also going to help a lot. Again, any quests that give you an early Prayer XP reward are going to come in handy. Mauritania gives you a 20,000 lamp for completing your first barrows. That will now become 320,000 at tier 3 and putting you all the way to 61 prayer. In general, this makes those regions like Mauritania that are very dense in PvM activity and not a lot of skilling options just a lot better when you can kind of focus on your combat training a little bit earlier and get into Slayer and things like that. In the last leagues, it's always felt like you're kind of waiting until you get your combat relic to really start training it, and now it feels like you'll be getting that a lot faster. And that's something I'm going to repeat a lot in this video, is that I feel like this is the PvM league. Like, you can really get into PvM so much earlier now. You can start fighting monsters, you can start fighting bosses, and you're not going to be kind of forced into doing a bunch of skilling and a bunch of chores that give you your power from the combat relics. In addition, in Tier 3, superior monsters are now enabled for everybody with the bigger and badder unlock. Superiors will also spawn at a 1 in 50 rate, and everybody will receive 5 times Slayer points from tasks without requiring you to complete 5 tasks before earning points. So really, I would hold off until Tier 3, but as soon as you're there, you can get right into combat and Slayer and really start going right into the PvM grind, work on your combat masteries by doing those tasks. You don't need to focus that much on all the other skilling tasks anymore. Now, you may be wondering, with all of these Slayer perks passive, as well as the stackable clue scrolls from the first tier, does this mean that we're going to see a clue scroll relic and a Slayer relic like we usually do? And I genuinely have no clue. We've seen these passives in previous leagues, so I think there's still a very good chance we'll see a tier that has Slayer and clues in it. Now, in tier 4, items from eligible sources will be 5 times as common. That is a massive jump to go from 2 times as common to 5 times as common, and you're getting that as early as tier 4. This is so crazy to me and really solidifies that they want you to feel like you can start bossing and grinding for drops a lot earlier than previous leagues. Because now you can just start grinding those raids, and you're not going to feel like you have to wait until the later relic tiers to actually benefit from those drop rates. I know a lot of people, they feel like, oh, why would I go grind out 100 raids if I could instead go grind out another 10,000 points and then I'll only have to do 80 raids. Now you just get that 5 times up front, go have fun, go do bosses, go get cool items. And I think with echo bosses being such a selling point this leagues, I think so many people are going to feel like, how can I rush to get to my first echo boss? And then how can I start doing raids with that echo item? I'm definitely looking for ways to try to access those bosses as soon as possible and just start grinding them, start getting some drops, and then actually leave some of the skilling stuff for the later tiers when you get the bigger experience multipliers. In addition, minigame points will now be bumped from 4 times to 8 times, which just makes all of those grinds better, so I'm really glad to see this back. And again, Soul Wars and Pest Control won't give you experience, so it's not going to be an issue of double dipping for those, and then all of your combat is just instantly solved with one of those 2 minigames. Finally, Tier 5 will increase your experience multiplier from 8 times to 12 times, and Tier 7 will increase your experience multiplier from 12 times to 16 times, which is the final amount. So we're capping out at 16 times the experience multiplier, with 32 times for all combats, including prayer, and 5 times drop rate, which will happen as soon as Tier 4. I don't think there's really too much to say about this, except, again, you might want to wait on some of your longer skilling grinds until you get to Tier 7 or at least Tier 5, and devote a little bit more time to doing PvM, because you're already getting such a massive bonus early on, and the combat masteries aren't really related as much to the Tier 5 and Tier 7 passive. It's also interesting to note that there is no Relic passive for Tier 6. And this confirms that we have at least 7 tiers of relics in addition to the separate combat mastery system. There might even be an 8th tier, and it just doesn't have a relic passive, just like Tier 6 doesn't have one either. Now, I've talked a lot about combat benefits being so front-loaded this year. However, they have said that there is going to be 1 tier of combat relics on this tree. And these are very likely going to be sort of the combat style agnostic relics that we've seen in the past. Things such as Guardian, Undying Retribution, or the Spec Relic. Basically things that anybody can use that's not predicated on what combat style you're going for. So there is still going to be some value in progressing through the tiers and getting your tasks completed. It's just not going to be as required to feel efficient, and you can get a lot more of your points by doing bossing and PVM as opposed to skilling. Finally, there's a few other changes. The minigame modifier will now apply to Marks of Grace, Hollowed Marks, Brimhaven vouchers, and Stardust. I think this makes the agility relic a lot better since it's doubling how much you're getting. And I wonder if this also works with the 10,000 coins that you get with the corner cutter relic. Like if you spawn 8 marks of grace, are you getting 80,000 coins? That would actually make the agility relic a pretty good source of cash. And in general, this makes tasks like getting your graceful outfit just a lot easier and a lot more bearable. Also, that Stardust change is pretty massive. I spent a lot of time just doing shooting stars in leagues because it's just AFK mining experience, super chill. And if you have Asgarnia and you can actually trade in that Stardust for like uncut gems, that's so much crafting experience that you're gonna get. That's kind of weird though, because Asgarnia was like probably the best zone for the power miner relic. And now it feels like if you go mining in Asgarnia, you're probably better off just doing like Stardust anyways and then just trading that in for uncut gems. Like, do you really need to like double up there? In addition, the drop rate modifier will apply to ornament kits as well as awakener orbs. This makes some of those higher like pinnacle content tasks a little bit easier to get, and I think it's going to allow a lot more people to try out the awakened versions of the Desert Treasure 2 bosses. I haven't tried them yet, and I think this is a perfect time to give it a shot and see if I can kill a couple. And I think they already said this, but yeah, clue scrolls will drop as a stackable clue box. So that's all the relic passives. I think individually, none of them are, game breaking or anything too crazy. But as a whole, it does really affect how you approach leagues. And I think that the changes to combat are just going to be a huge benefit for everybody. I know I've already talked to a friend who quit previous leagues because they hated all the early game skilling. They just wanted to get right into PVM. And these changes have absolutely convinced them to play and give leagues another shot. So if you've hated that early game point grind in leagues, I think this is definitely the year to give it another shot. Finally, now that we know that there's 7 relics, I wanted to quickly just give my speculation on what the possible tiers could be. Tier 1 is basically confirmed to be Harvest relics. I think at Tier 2, we're going to get those utility relics, so Herblore, Agility, and Thieving. Tier 3 will be the Transportation relics, so Fairy's Flight, Bank Heist, and Clue Compass. Maybe these are swapped, but I think that those utility relics are better suited for tier 2, and then the teleport relics you can probably hold off on until tier 3. Tier 4, I think we're going to see Golden God go up against a Slayer relic and a Clue Scroll relic. Tier 5 will be Overgrown, Grimoire, and one more relic. I'm not really sure what this could be. Tier 6 doesn't have a passive, which is why I think it's going to be Total Recall and Banker's Note. And finally, tier 7 will be that one tier of combat relics, which will kind of reward you for completing all of the tiers. So those are my predictions. I'm definitely going to be wrong on some of them, but I have a pretty good feeling that this is close enough. Now that we know that PVM is going to be such a main focus of leagues this year, I can't wait to show you all of the combinations and builds that I've been working on, which should hopefully be up in a video really soon. Hopefully, we might see the starter region task list come out this weekend as well, so I can get working on creating that day 1 route for all of you to enjoy and use to kind of efficiently get out of the starting area and into your first zone. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.